What's up, Power Painters? So, this is Taylor here coming at you today with a new kind of a lecture video. I don't have a lot of time these days. I'm currently working as an illustrator full-time, 40 hours a week plus, over at Committee Film here in Minneapolis, or rather in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. And that's really, I've never had a full-time job before, and it's all a lot of fun stuff, and I get to illustrate, so it's great. But it also takes up a lot of time, so I don't have as much free time to make these videos as if I was just straight up freelancing. As much as I love the position, it is also a temp position, anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks, so you can expect heavier updates, more involved processes after the 12-week period max from when this video is released. But yeah, it's really great fun, feels very professional, and I'm having a great time, and I'll have some new insights to show you guys, and I'll have more time soon. But that's enough about that. Let's get into some of this action right here. So, I'm starting a series here. It's going to be just really introductory, because I know there are a lot of beginners out there, people who've been doing it for, less than a year, say, or just haven't really delved into drawing as a craft and are having kind of a hard time figuring out where to start. So there's really three places you can start, in my opinion. You either come from sort of a drawing background, you come from a painting background, or you have a sculpting background. And those are sort of the three visual mediums that are typically static, non-moving. If you come from a drawing background, typically you utilize line. And in a painting background, you're going to be using shape and color more so. Great deal of shape in drawing, but I'll get to that later. And if you're in sculpting, you're obviously going to be using form and more of a three-dimensional medium, although you want to think three-dimensionally regardless of the sort of background you choose, even if you go with drawing and painting. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about some of these principles in what I'm going to call the Intro to Drawing course. It's going to be free just here on YouTube. I'm going to have a more involved course on my Gumroad page, which I'm going to call the Fundamentals of Drawing. It'll be $10. It'll come with probably 6+ assignments, 6+ little videos like this, except much more involved, and have more live demonstrations. But let's get started on this one right here. So basically, drawing typically begins with lines, and I wanted to get into what some of the things you can do with line are. So as you see here, we have thickness, and that's just the thickness of the overall line. You can see we have pretty thick on this spectrum, and then all the way down to very finite, very thin. And then you have the weight of the line, meaning if you have a contrast or a juxtaposition of thin and thick, we call that the line weight. It's a little bit different from thickness, but it still is pretty much the same thing, just more contrasty. And then we have overlap, wherein the lines are just sort of intersecting at points, and you can tell that you're using them to delineate space. Like this one will look like it's in front of the other, and there are a couple ways to do that, and I'll show you that later in the other videos. Here we have flow, so that's the direction of the line, and I find that line is probably the easiest way to generate flow, or the feeling of flow, something moving on the picture plane. And that's why people who typically begin with drawing have a very good sense of flow, because line really enables you to see that in my opinion, the purest form. In addition to flow, there's also straights. So you're going to have things that are either concave or convex, meaning that they're either going to be, C-shaped, or I can't turn my hand the other way. Well, I guess I kind of can. Or it's going to be like an inverted C, so popped in or popped out. And you're also going to have straight lines. So those are basically the three kind of lines you can have. They're going to be concave or convex. Concave is in, concave is out, or straight. And you're going to use those three types of lines rather, to create your pictures. Also we have contour, which is, oh, I misspelled that. Awesome. Let me just fix that real quick. Okay, so now that you've watched me be human and make mistakes, we're going to continue. Anyway, we have contour, and contour is basically the perimeter of any given object. Something that is enclosed usually appears pretty solid, and the contour is what runs that object. So the contour is the outside, and the enclosure is what is inside. And these are just ways you can use lines, right? Like there's obviously infinite ways to use these lines, But as you move forward, these are just some really simple ones that'll get you started and help you to sort of create your pictures with a little bit more conscious effort. You'll have some tools in your toolbox, so to speak, when you're working. So these are just some really quick doodles I did, probably about 5 and 7 minutes each respectively. And it's really mostly just about showcasing some of these principles. Like, I have a very thick outline on this guy, or thicker than the interior lines, and that helps me delineate form with these lines. So there's parts of them that look three-dimensional. I'm also overlapping some of these lines here, like you can see right here, and say right here, so that it helps push his other objects back in space. And that is sort of the principle of overlap. But we also have some straights versus curves here. Like, this part of the leg is very straight, and this one is much curvier. And this just looks good when you sort of pronounce those two together. And finally, we have an enclosure, as he's, enclosed. He's a completely closed shape. But you can also use lost and found lines, which I'll touch on later in this course. Just to talk a little bit about this doodle, it's just a really quick sort of chick with a head bust type thing. She's giving you a little attitude. The lines are much thinner, but she's still pretty enclosed. And these are both pretty sketchy. Like, if you want to do a finished line piece, I would definitely recommend redrawing your stuff 2 to 3 times, maybe more if you can't get the lines you want in 2 to 3 redrawings of it. But this is stuff I'll touch on in later videos, basically the process of going through and revising your lines and building upon what you've drawn earlier in an iterative fashion, and that'll give you better results each time in most cases. So yeah, as you can see, she's got an enclosure. I'm using some thickness here. This little sort of thicker jaw line, thick to thin jaw line, helps me really sell this shadow under here where most of the light's going to be obscured. And then I have thicker lines around her eyes to draw attention to those. And finally, we have a thick little line slash shape here to help show you that she's got something holding this, or yeah, this kind of sort of tassel of hair, if you will, together. And so yeah, guys, this is just a really super basic intro, and I didn't want to overwhelm you with too many details if you're just getting started, or if you're just deciding to pursue it seriously. So I'm going to have this up on powerpainters.org, just under one of the tabs, probably the resources tab. So you can download this here. I'll have a link to it in the description box. And I'm also going to have some other tutorials out soon in the future once I can ascertain a little bit more time. But yeah, basically that's it. You have your thickness, your weight, your flow, also your straights versus your curves, your overlaps, and the contour. So I want you guys to use these tools for just little doodles or sketches. You can use reference if you want. In fact, it's probably a good idea if you're just getting started. And just kind of practice using these. And remember with your lines, and I'll close with this, just be really confident. Don't do a bunch of sketchy, hitchy sort of lines like you're scared of them. Just make nice, flowing, sweeping motions. Use either like quick wrist stroke, quick stroke from your elbow, even your shoulder. Those are the 3 sort of areas that lines or drawing kind of comes from. So that's a really good tip moving forward. A lot of beginners have a lot of hitchy, sort of scratchy lines, and I'll do a really quick demo here of what those look like. When I unplug my tablet, I did. So bear with me. I'm going to do this really quick. This is the most professional video ever. I hope you enjoy it. But yeah, so basically, tablet's warming up. And here we go. And so beginner lines usually look something, let's do them in like a gross green color so you know not to do this. It looks something like this, where you're trying to create something in like a really scratchy, scared fashion, and it just looks hairy and wrong. Everything will look hairy and wrong if you do it like this. So there is a time to use lines like this when you're, say, inferring something that's very furry, but by far and large, you're really wanting to do these confident, sort of quicker motions, and you can kind of practice with it too before you actually go, and that way you sort of know kinesthetically the result you're going to be getting. And while this isn't the most anatomically perfect leg, as I'm not using any reference, it still has a lot more of an ebb and a flow to it instead of like the scared, I'm going to scratch out all my lines action or be fuzzy and weird and pick up my pen all the time. Really, the bottom line here is just confidence and sort of a cleanliness and a design to what you're doing. It's not just defaulting to this. You got this action, and that's a lot more attractive to look at. If you have lines that are apprehensive and scared looking and unprofessional, then they just don't look good, and it's a really bad habit. It's hard to get out of. A lot of people start with it. I know I did back when I was like 14 or whatever. But yeah, so you really want to convey your lines with a confidence, sort of a cleanliness. And even if you don't feel that yet, just fake it until you make it. Maybe just do a little bit of tracing if that helps, as long as you don't claim it as your own. Tracing is perfectly okay for learning. You can go and find artists you really like and maybe make a printout of it if you don't have a tablet or whatever, and just trace over it kind of confidently, not super fast, not super slow. Just find that balance and feel what it feels like to make lines like that, and pretty soon you'll be doing it. It's just like practicing anything else. So, thanks for watching, guys. If you like these videos, you can go to powerpainters.org and there's a donate button. You can toss some funds my way, which means I get to work less in studios and all that other stuff and make more videos for you guys. I'm happy either way, though, because I get to draw and paint, but it's really sincerely appreciated. Also, I do have tutorials that are premium tutorials, and you can download those for a couple bucks. Usually I have them for like $1 or $3, just because I know that a lot of artists don't have a lot of money. So until you get to the professional level where you're making $1,000 a week or so, or even like $200 a commission, then these will really help elevate you to that level. And those are on my Gumroad, which are also on the powerpainters.org website. All the links will be in the description box, so don't worry about it. Thanks for watching, guys. I will have the next video out soon. I believe it's going to be on, yeah, we're going to go into the key fundamentals of drawing next. So that'll be fun stuff. Remember to keep your head up, just remain confident, don't feel bad about where you're at all, because you're always going to get better as long as you consciously put effort towards it. Yeah, this ran a little longer than I thought, but I had fun. So thanks for watching, guys. More videos soon. Happy painting, stay positive, stay awesome, stay beautiful. See ya.